This week on the 77% Street Debate.
Sex and money started way back. Even if you go to the Bible, it's the first profession.
Even as a lady, I cannot date without money. I need to get my hair right. I need to do my lashes.
What happened to invite me out on a date? Let's go to Uhuru Park. Let's chill. Let's connect. If the sex comes after, well and good. Okay. We are fine.
One day she's going to find someone and she likes them, but then he doesn't reach my caliber. So she'll always be nagging to this person. I love you. I want you to be better.
Then dump me. Just leave me alone. I don't want to nag you either. Who wants to be a nagging human being?
In her 1986 single, Gwen Guthrie popularized the expression "no romance with no finance." But in 2025, we're asking a rather similar question. What about sex? Can that exist without money? And if not, who pays the pleasure bill? Who better to answer this question for me than some lovely Kenyans here in the capital? How many of you believe that sex and money can exist separately? Do you believe that they can exist separately? Let me see. Oh, so you do think that? All right. So Achibe, you don't think that?
Okay, I'm Achibela. I'm a sex worker. I've been in sex work for the last 16 years. As a sex worker, I earn through sex, and I've been earning through sex. I pay all my bills with sex, but it's not that I don't enjoy sex. Sometimes I can go with a client and I feel that she's doing better, so he can just be like a friend and like a boyfriend.
Yeah. Okay. So Achibela here making it a very clear thing, but you raised your hand saying that you think there's a separation between sex and money.
Yeah, there is. I mean, I feel like sex is so special, it's intimate, it's actually spiritual. And I think that when you start connecting sex and money and they have to coexist, I think it reduces people to commodities. It makes people feel like a product. It's like if you have money, you have power over this person. And I feel like that demeans the whole purpose of it, because I believe that sex was introduced by God for a reason. So I feel like if we tone it down to this level, we make it lose its value.
Mukabana, you already want to speak to me?
Because I'm already annoyed.
Okay.
So I feel like, yes, sex is special and intimate, but if we are to even still look at it from the biblical point of view, provision is important in order to create that intimate bond that creates family, that eventually creates community. So without including resources in order to build that community, how do we begin? And it starts with a nice bed to sleep on. Okay. Yeah, and a nice bed to sleep on is expensive.
All right, hold on. Achibela already wants to. I haven't even asked a question. Okay.
About sex being special, yes, it is special. Even as we know, in our houses, in our homes, if our father don't have money, you know the kind of home it will be. You see, even our mother depends on our fathers. So it's all about sex. You can't have sex with someone when you're hungry. You can't have, and you have to get money to buy food.
All right. You wanted to respond to what Mukabana said before I asked my first question.
I agree that provision has to be there, but I think provision can be in so many contexts. So if for example, because as a believer, sex ought to occur between a husband and a wife, the husband can provide, but it doesn't necessarily mean he has to provide money. He can provide care, love, can provide protection. It's interesting because nowadays you'll find a lady having a very high-end job and the guy is a good guy but can't match up to their salary. It doesn't mean that now they can't live together. I feel like money needs to be removed from that equation and boil it down to, do they love each other, or are they together, are they married? And that's in the context we need to look at sex
okay. So a very romanticized view, I would say, of, having emotions at the forefront, compassion, and that's what sort of steers everything. But is it realistic, Kenya, to assume that you can actually have intimate relations without resources, as Mukabana said?
It's next to impossible. Let's start from that. Honest to God, every single aspect of life revolves around money. Because even if I want to show that gesture, I'm like, oh my gosh, I need to take babe out. I need to make a gesture. I'll need to even low budget, 100 bob. 100 bob. Nunue skuma, nyama, tumayai. Sorry. I'll buy some eggs, maybe. Put them in a heart shape. I'll need to buy maybe, some sugar, maybe a packet of tea. And then we go out, have a nice picnic. I've shown my gesture with 100 bob. Regardless whether I wanted the sex or not, which I did, I'll still have to remove money from my pocket to show that gesture to start that process.
Okay, Emanuela, you're smiling here. I wonder if you agree with these proclamations so far. You're fairly young, right? In your 20s. Is that how people your age mates think?
Okay, you need money because actually it's in the middle of everything. There's no way you can even date someone without money.
Okay, so Emanuela says you can't even date without money. Agreed or disagreed? Agree. Oh, agreed.
Even as a lady, I cannot date without money. I need to get my hair right. I need to do my lashes. And this is the first day before I can be like, babe, where's the M-Pesa? If I am a respectable young woman, I have to present myself that I am capable to be amongst somebody, be with somebody who is capable of handling that kind of financial power. So it takes money regardless of who you are.
Let me ask Shanta here, because she raised her hand and you see her covered up like this because she's in a very secretive and small community of the BDSM guys. She's going to be telling us more about that. But you raised your hand when I asked, can people date without money? And you said no.
For me, I cannot be with somebody who does not invest in me financially. Invest in my business, invest in my work, invest in my well-being. Because I'm like, what are we doing then? Like, I'm comfortable right now as I am. I'd rather be single than be with somebody who cannot invest in me financially.
I like what you've said. You know, the language you're using, you'd rather be single than be with somebody who won't invest in you financially. So let me come back to Archibella real quick before I come to you, Brian. Then what is the difference between having sex for money and having sex perhaps with the hopes of getting a job, a favor, or some other kind of benefit?
You know, in sex work, there's different type of sex work, yeah? We can have sex work, you pay me, you give me gift. Sex work is exchanging sex with gift, money, or present, things like those ones. So even if I'm going to give you sex, I'm going to have with you sex so that you can give me a job, that is sex work. Sex and money started way back, even if you go to the Bible. It's the first profession. In the Bible, they were sex workers. So when you come and say sex and money cannot match, they must match.
Okay, let me introduce Brian here. So the dynamics of somebody who's differently abled are very different. So speak to me about sex, pleasure, and money from your lens.
I think in my case, money is a tool, a means to an end for me as a disabled man. Not a lot of money, just enough money to get me to an accessible room, an accessible bed, to help me get to bed, to help me get the medication that I need to get the job done. I need money to, like you said, take my lady to a nice place, to have a nice meal, and then all the other medical stuff that I need to have fulfilling sex.
So before we even start calculating what are the usual recurring costs of sex, you have to think about many others. Yeah. And living in a country that's not really designed for people who are differently abled, how do those costs stack up?
Let's say, for instance, I wanted to go to a guest house and I wanted to take my lady there, and they would really question, why is this man on a wheelchair seeking our services? What business does he have here? Because they are not used, or they do not even fathom the idea that a disabled man could even enjoy sex. The general feeling is that we are asexual and that we don't want sex, but that is contrary, because we are human beings and we just function just normally. So
how does that then play into your ideas of manhood and masculinity? Ben here spoke about provision being a thing that drives him as a man.
I'm very much like Ben. I want to provide, and I want to provide in all ways. I want to provide in the bedroom, and I want to provide outside. Yeah. So that is a part that I hold very close to my heart and very close to my identity. When I describe myself, I want to be a man that is able to provide for their lady and for them to feel like they are content.
Speaking of provision, I find it interesting that you teach women how to empower themselves financially, and yet you said to me that you would never date a man who earns less than you.
Honestly, I've already done that relationship where I was like, oh, love, the romantic, the Disney version of life where we are in love, where we are supposed to care about our emotions and our characters more. However, I realized that, especially because right now a lot of women, despite there being more opportunity for women are still more disadvantaged when it comes to financial power. We carry a lot of the burden of bearing life, of emotional labor, as in we are the nurturers, whenever people are in trouble, who do men mostly run to? The women in their lives.
And Ben, so do you agree with this? Because it sounds to me like what Mukabana is describing is pay me for the biological burden that I have to bear.
No, I think as a man you should be cognizant of that fact. You should be cognizant of the fact that maybe when she gets pregnant, she's gonna get the most heat, career-wise, health-wise, body-wise. There's definitely that. And maybe as a man you need to consider maybe just to see how you can make her life a bit better, just by the way you're trying. But this conversation is always interesting because I ask myself, then how did our parents do it? We have parents here who are married for 40 years. And when they tell you stories of how they met in the slums probably. Like I was born in Mathare North. It's not like my dad had money or my mom had money. Like money was not the first point of conversation that do you have money or you don't. Because now the men who at some point who get money and spend it on a chick, the mindset that we are fighting is that immediately they want sex in return. And it's like they're owed this sex. Okay. And that's the mindset that we've been fighting even with this whole femicide thing, that people need to stop feeling entitled to the other person's money.
All right. Let me come to Emanuela here for a second, because we've been speaking very broadly in a heteronormative sense, men and women. But how does it work when there are no men? You know, do we still expect women who are masculine presenting to pay the bill?
For me, yes. But it's not like that for everyone. But for me personally, I expect my partner to take care of me.
Even if your partner in this case is also a woman and she probably also has the same resources or access to resources as you?
Yes.
So what informs this kind of thinking? Where do you borrow it from?
To be honest, I don't even know. It's just deeply rooted in me. And also when I date people, I also now date people with the same mindset so that there's no issue.
Don't you think it sets women back? Because then the narratives that Ben is talking about, that women are constantly after money, then keep perpetuating. What do you think about that? Let me ask Mukabana. She has an answer for me. Yeah.
She's very right. You should really be seeking out people who are willing to, who have the same mindset as you do. Like, so I come to you and I'm like, Edith, hey girl, you look cute. Can we date? I'll pay for the first date. That makes sense to you, you will date me. If that does not make sense to you, you're like, no, I'm the one who's always in charge. And more so, this is how I look at it. Big bank takes little bank. If you have more money than me, it will never be me. You're the one who's paying the bills.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you're very, very clear on that. Yeah. Shanta.
It's not that people cannot get sex at their level with whatever money they have. It's that they want better. I think the problem comes in when, especially for men, when they look at somebody and they want them, but they can't afford them. Yet, they don't have a problem not being able to afford rent in certain places.
Okay, so there are a few things that were said here, but I just want to pick up on the first one that you mentioned, that the reason why men are constantly complaining that women want money is because the men always want to date beyond their means. Like, they're dating, they're shooting above their lane. True or false? Let me hear from some men. True or false? Oh, only the women are raising their hands, okay.
True.
Yeah.
I think most of the men who tell women to stop going after money are the ones who don't have it. I mean, if you look at me and you think you can't afford me, then just walk away.
So say the man is able to afford you. What does that mean?
It means you should be able to give me double of what I can give myself.
The standards out here. Okay, can I get some more views from the back, please? Yeah.
Checky. Very simple. Everyone should afford themselves. And don't be entitled to someone's money. I was not born to provide for you. I'm just doing a favor when I do that. Because sometimes you put very high standards that even your own father can't afford. And then you are expecting another man to do that for you, instead of you working and do for yourself. So the very simple thing is, if you want to afford like a billionaire's life, you work hard to be that billionaire, whether a woman or a man.
Okay, so you're saying everybody must mind their own person. I know that there are itchy fingers here, but let me come to Winnie here for a second.
Yeah, I completely agree with what Cheki said, because she started she started by saying that I need money to make my hair get a complete makeover so that I attract someone. But why are you giving this other person pressure to afford you when these are things that you're supposed to be doing for yourself to make yourself feel good? You say that when you go on a date with a mask presenting person that you expect them to pay. I will only pay if I invite you out on this date, because again, life is hard. Everyone needs to be able to carry their own burden. And you, sorry, and you need 100 bob to buy skuma ugali and carrots for this person to come so that you have sex with them. What happened to invite me out on a date? Let's go to Uhuru Park. Groundnuts are like 5 bob or 10 bob. Let's chill, let's connect. If the sex comes after, well and good, we are fine.
So there are three yous have been mentioned here. Let's start with the first you. You. So why not just come up with the money for your own hair, your lashes? You look very beautiful today.
I did not say that the person that I'm going to date is the one who needs to provide that. I said that even I, as a girl in Nairobi, just a young girl, I can't date without having some kind of resource to put myself together. Just that. And I'm not pressuring anyone to afford me. I'm saying that I want to present myself to the standard and caliber of the kind of person I want to attract. Once I attract that person, I mean like we are shoulder to shoulder in terms of resources, and hopefully they're a little higher. I could lean on a little bicep, you know what I mean, right? But without that money, I know I will become a naggy. I will be so annoyed. You don't want me near you when I'm hungry, please.
Right. So let me come back to you, who Kenya, because you were asked a very simple question. Yeah. What happened to connection? Does it all have to go back to this money thing?
Okay. Like she said, even if we go to Uhuru Park and buy some jugus, it will still require the same 100 bob. It's just that it has been put into better use. Mm-hmm. You see, the connection must be there. If you are, in her example, she's always expecting that she's going to meet someone that's always higher than her. One day, she's going to find someone and she likes them. I love him the way he is. Maybe it's the sex appeal. Maybe it's the way he looks. I like him. But then he doesn't reach my caliber. So she'll always be nagging to this person. I love you. I want you to be better. Okay. This person is like, me, I'm just here trying to be.
Hold on.
Then dump me. Just leave me alone. I don't want to nag you either. Who wants to be a nagging human being? What I'm saying is, if we notice, even though we love each other, the heart does want what it wants. But if we all notice that anyway, over here, we are not matching up, not everything is aligned, because we have to be matched up sexually, spiritually, financially, principle-wise. We have to be matched up, compatible.
But let me get a comment from Brian here, because we've heard about financial incompatibilities when it comes to relationships, right? But sometimes you start a relationship and you're on an equal footing and something happens and you lose the finances. What happens? What's to happen in that situation? Does money affect desire?
You have heard everyone say money is very important because people have bills to pay. And what I'm feeling from the panel here is that most people are in relationships with the wrong people. I think they should find people that are more compatible with them. And if you want someone who is a provider, then look for someone who has those qualities. If you want someone who is a nurturer, go for those. So the problem is that you're looking for a provider in someone who is just trying to build at that time.
But in this society, do we speak enough about these things, especially at the onset of relationships or relations, or do we just assume that this is how the world works?
I think as relationships start, there's a lot of facade, and people like to lie to each other in the beginning of relationships. And I think that is one of the biggest problems, because you present as something that you are not.
Achibella, let me get your comment on that. We are liars and we want to be hard on our partners. True or false?
I think it's true. Yeah. Nowadays, you see how people get divorced. People lie to people. You come and lie to your girl that you have a Benz, you have what, and you have nothing. Let me come to whatever Cheki said. Cheki is the stingy men that they don't need to promote women, but they come to us to buy sex.
Okay, let me give him a chance to respond, please.
When I'm dating you, I'm your partner, not you. I'm not you. So as a partner, I'm not there to take care of 100% of your needs. I'm just there to support.
But this is what is making Achibela here say that you're stingy. What do you say to that?
No, that's not being stingy. That's making someone carry their own burden.
That's you answer that. Let's hear from Shanti.
Somebody said that our parents' relationships used to last longer. But those women suffered. In fact, what is happening today is that more and more we are discovering that women, especially in marriages, have a lot of financial abuse because you take a loan for this dude. He probably goes and spends it on his mpango kando. You build with this man. When you're in your 60s, he hooks up with this 25-year-old secretary. I'm like, at least give me a dowry when we get married so I can invest it. The day you decide to change your mind, like Jay-Z changed his mind with whoever he was with before Beyonce, I'm in a better place.
Okay, speaking of safety, the two of you are in sex work, but in very different communities, right? In BDSM, there are very strict rules of engagement. How does that work with the exchange of money?
Now, the safety issue always comes up because, unfortunately, even though BDSM is founded on safety as one of its principles, we still have the male-female dynamic. And I'm sure that's probably something that even Achibela knows about in your circles. And so I'm like, the rest that I charge have to cover that as well. They have to cover my safety and my security. I have to think about if I'm in a very, very tricky situation, who's going to get me out of here?
But put simply, more money, more safety?
I'd say more money, more safety at the level that I am able to do more for myself to keep myself safe. Yes.
Okay. Achibela, because we're already talking about safety, let's talk about what the law says.
As sex workers, we need sex work to be decriminalized.
So do you think that if sex work is decriminalized, then conversations like this will be happening more often? Because they're often shrouded in secrecy, conversations about sex or even money.
Yeah, if sex work is being decriminalized, people will do it with dignity. You see, people will do it with dignity. You will know, I'm not supposed to reach here. This is where I'm supposed to reach when doing sex work here.
Okay. All right. So we're just about to wrap up and I want people to give me their opinions before we close this.
Yeah. My thing is, if you want sex recreationally, sex and money probably will be very fused together. It'll be, I want to pay for sex, I can get sex. But think about a guy who's going to label himself as involuntarily celibate because they don't have money and they want to start a relationship. They will...
But what are we saying here, before you even continue, if someone is completely poor, they have absolutely no chance of getting a sexual partner?
No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying ideally, when somebody says, for example, if I were to say, because I'm like 25, I say that since I don't have money, I won't have a partner. And my view of the only way I can get a partner is if I have money. I'll wait and become emotionally stunted, get to like a 35, 40-year-old man who now has money and will only think of women if they want to start a relationship as I pay you, you give me sex, and that's it. It'll never be with emotional intimacy, financial intimacy. It's not within 6 levels of intimacy that I normally think of. It's just going to be, now I have the money, now I can get any woman.
Got it.
It's just going to be sex, money. I have the money now, you can't say no to me. If you say no to me, I become aggressive. And all of a sudden, you start talking about people killing women here and there, femicide.
Yeah.
And it becomes an actual problem for all of us.
Okay. Somebody there has been raising their hand for forever.
A lot of time when discrepancies happen or conflicts happen is because of implied expectations. And this is also deeply rooted in our gender roles, I would say patriarchy, for instance, because if a man expects that when he invites a lady to his place for dinner, it's just we're going to have sex after the dinner, So that thing of when you are coming, what did you expect? That's what usually is asked.
So 2 last ones, we'll end with Ben, please.
I will say this. The idea that has been attached to money is if I give you money and I want that watch, when you give me that watch and I give you the money, I own the watch. And that's what makes people feel like, especially men, when you give the woman that money and she accepts to be with you, then you start feeling like you own her, because that's how we work with money. So we have to be very mature to understand that even if I give this money, it's not enough to buy a human being. So you have to respect that they can choose to say no or to say yes, or to tell you wait.
So I want to wrap up with you, Ben, because at the very beginning, you were the only person who seemed to think that money and sex can exist separately. Having listened to all these people, do you feel more strongly about your position or less so?
Yeah, I do. I actually run a podcast that we talk a lot about relationships. And
With your wife?
With my wife, yeah. Big shout out to 10. And we go to different counties, talking to different people. And one thing I can tell people is that real relationships exist, and a lot of people on ground are doing relationships without having all these standards that we tend to portray, especially on the media. I feel like this is sort of an unrealistic standards that people set, or to say things maybe just for the sake of rage reaction. But on ground, like even when you look around, so many businesses are owned by couples, people who started with nothing, people who don't know, who didn't have like those standards of you have to invest in me, I have to invest in you. So I think that the more we keep commercializing relationships and all this stuff, the more we keep getting it wrong.
Okay. So I asked what appeared to be a simple question at the start. Who pays the pleasure bill? Can sex and money really exist separately? Well, according to this discussion, I don't think so, but it definitely has an interesting interplay. Thank you all for watching. Bye-bye.